Um,
Mm.
transitions.
Uh,
S- Speaking of fast times and love
uh,
interests,
oh, there you go.
uh, the most tenuous of associations.
Yeah, yeah.
American Graffiti.
Yes, the movie that gave us Star Wars, and uh,
Yeah,
and and it also helped George Lucas with the decision to not go through the studio system ever again when he wanted to make another movie. Just do it on his own.
yeah. So American Graffiti. Uh, I believe he was making it simultaneously or was working on it around the same time as THX.
Hmm. That sounds about right. Yeah.
And from the little bit I saw in my brief online research, Francis Ford Coppola, I believe, was recommending that he try a coming of age story.
Hmm.
And so George Lucas basically, it's the night of four teenagers, like on graduation night, but before a bunch of them are about to leave town to go seek their fortunes in the world.
Yes.
Uh,
Um, yeah.
Set in 1962, Modesto, California, which this seems like it might be slightly autobiographical, considering that George was from Modesto, California, and around the same time. And
Yes.
unlike some of the characters, he was also really big into the whole car racing scene.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I think it's fair to say that this movie is very autobiographical.
That's crazy talk.
Yeah. 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 But yeah, so the four main characters that we got in this movie are Richard Dreyfuss's character, and
Kurt,
his name is Kurt. And then you got Ron Howard as Steven. And then you got Toad, who's Charles Martin Smith. The only other thing I remember him from was The Untouchables. Um, and then what was the hot rod guy? John, was it?
Paul Lamette
Paul Lamont, yeah.
as John.
John. Okay. Yeah, and so yeah, so as DB was saying, this was their last night together, and it's it is very much a slice of life story. You know, there's no like driving conflict. There are conflicts, but there's no like overarching issue that the characters are other than them leaving town. Um,
Right, and deciding if they want to leave town.
right, yeah, because Kurt's kind of waffling about whether or not he wants to leave. Steven definitely wants to leave. He wants to get out of that one horse town.
Sow some wild oats.
Yes, yeah, because he's hanging out with his girlfriend, who's Cindy Williams is the actress.
Who you may recognize from Laverne and Shirley.
Yes, and the, they're sitting in the car together eating their burgers and fries from their drive-in or the car hop, and Stephen Ron Howard, or basically says, basically wants to have an open relationship.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, while we're apart, we don't necessarily have to only, we can see other people because how else will we know if we really love each other?
Yeah.
Which, like, man, that's some modern open marriage logic right there.
Oh yeah. Um, and then you got Kurt, who he's riding in the back seat of the car, and then he spots Suzanne Summers in a Ford T-Bird, and he immediately falls in love, and so he spends most of the night trying to find her, um, and getting into trouble along the way.
Yep.
Uh,
Then you got Terry, who Steve has given his beloved car, who immediately as all of us might, decides to go out and use this really nice car to go pick up chicks.
Yeah. Yeah, and so he picks up one chick, and then she wants them to go buy wants him to buy booze. Of course, he's underage, so he's got to find a clever way to do it, and he does the old trick of standing outside the liquor store and asking people, "Hey, I lost my ID. Can you buy me a bottle of whiskey?"
Yeah, he pulls that thing like you going, oh, I'll take one pencil and oh yeah, copy that magazine and oh yeah, and a bottle of Kentucky Dry. And like,
Yeah, yeah,
okay, where's your ID? Oh, sorry, I left my ID outside my car, and my car's at home.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Then you
But
got
yeah.
yeah, they got John out there, basically trolling the town, looking for people to race.
Yeah, and then he runs into this one car with a group of girls, and he's trying to get one of them in his car, and they're like, "Oh, so and so's little sister will ride with you." Like, "Oh yeah, okay," and it's she's like 12 years old.
It's like, oh, you meant little sister, okay.
Yeah, 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 and the girl the actress's name was Mackenzie Phillips, and she was on a sitcom back in the late 70s called was it One Day at a Time, I think is what it
Yep,
was.
that's right.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and one of the stories about the behind the scenes stuff when they were making the movie, uh, apparently like just they all stayed at like a Days Inn type thing, and they all just hung around the pool and got drunk between scenes. And apparently Mackenzie Phillips was doing that, which is like, oh, she's only 12. But,
Yeah, arrested for cocaine possession.
mhm. Yeah, she definitely had one of the troubled child star lives. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But anyway, yeah. So and but what's interesting about the movie, and I think my father pointed this out, is that everything that they do in this movie, there are consequences. Like if they do something bad, there's a consequence for it. So like Terry, for instance, when he gets the alcohol and then he goes drinking with the girl, one, the car gets stolen.
yeah, they make the bright decision like, oh, we got to have radio in the background while we make out, of course.
Yeah.
And it's like, hold on a second, the music stopped. So what does that mean? It means that the music stopped and the car's going. Come on.
Yeah. And then two, he gets sick because he drank too much.
Yeah.
Um, but
Meanwhile, Paul Lamont, or excuse me, John, like the
yeah,
race car driver, uh, he actually kind of has the most blameless night of all of them. So he has the least bad things happen to him.
that's true. Yeah. But of course he's got Harrison Ford looking for him because he wants to race him.
Yep.
Uh,
Harrison Ford in a, in a cowboy hat.
yeah, 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 and doing his best. Hey, come on!
And then, yeah, Ron, just for being a continuous sleazeball, ends up really like driving his girlfriend into the arms of Harrison Ford.
Right? Yeah, yeah. Because then he has the epiphany that, oh, gee, well, maybe I shouldn't be pushing her away.
Yeah, maybe I don't have to leave town to find myself.
Yeah,
Maybe I like her a lot.
yeah, and then of course he had Kurt, Richard Dreyfuss, who he runs afoul of street toughs or street punks,
The
the
Pharaohs.
pharaohs, yeah, and he actually impresses them, which is
This is not good for him.
no, it's not good for him. But then of course he's trying to find Suzanne Summers, and he ends up going to the radio station where Wolfman Jack is working.
Which thanks for bringing up Wolfman Jack.
Yeah,
So Wolfman Jack was an actual DJ who was really popular at the time,
yeah,
and he that is actually Wolfman Jack recording stuff for this movie.
yeah,
And he like there isn't really a driving conflict, but he is a constant thread in the movie, right?
yeah.
Because he's providing the period appropriate soundtrack as they're going.
Yeah, and then of course, like all the stories they're telling about him, like, oh, he's got a, he's up in space and he's broadcasting from up there, and like, apparently,
Oh,
like,
it's a pirate radio station, and they can't shut him down.
yeah, yeah, and they used to tell stories about him like that, like, oh, he's up on the
Yep.
moon, and yeah,
Yep. But and they do use the soundtrack a few times to some really good effects.
hmm
Like, what was the song that started playing when Terry was trying to steal his car back, and
oh,
he realized that the people are standing over him. It was like
oh
a
God,
perfect
what was it?
musical sting. It was like,
Yeah, oh man,
"Hello,
what was it?
babe."
Yes, yes, it was.
That was
Yeah,
it.
hello,
The big bopper.
yeah.
The other thing that the soundtrack did is that I had actually seen this movie in high school, although I didn't remember too much of it.
Mhm.
And I had it in my head that this was a 50s period piece, but it's actually 1962. But they kind of say that the 60s, as we think of them, didn't really start till like 63 or so.
Yeah. Yeah, because yeah, probably right around when Kennedy was done in.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was the turning point. And they even mentioned that too with Richard Dreyfuss, was that, oh, he's going to be a aide to President Kennedy.
Right. His dream is to shake hands with President Kennedy.
Right. Yeah.
Now, as far as other aspects of the movie, because like Daniel said, there really isn't a driving conflict for it. It is interesting hearing George Lucas style dialogue in non-fantasy or sci-fi scenarios,
Yeah.
because like some of the dialogue it feels really natural, some of it doesn't. Also, I'll say that
Yeah.
there is one sort of contradiction to your dad's thought that bad things happen to people who do bad things.
Yeah.
Kurt doesn't really suffer any consequences of helping the pharaohs steal a bunch of coins from some friends at the Moose Lodge.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. Or ripping the axle out of the police car.
Yeah, that kind of goes unpunished.
That's true. Yeah. But
Um,
yeah.
I think that the interactions I enjoyed the most were Paul Lamont with the young girl, just because she seemed to know the power she had to ruin his life if she wanted to.
Yeah. Which yeah, of course, yeah, even then people were wary of stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep. Like their interactions were just charming, as he was just kind of annoyed with this young girl who was wanting to feel very adult, being on this car ride.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, and then they even like they even play pull a little prank or pull a little stunt on a car. That
Yep.
I think they had like a water balloon. They threw like a water balloon at her, and then they're
And
like, "All right, let's."
they had a can of shaving cream
Right, yeah,
or silly string or something along those lines.
yeah,
Uh, but most of the storylines do kind of come together at the end, where John finally gets to have his race with Harrison Ford,
mhm.
with Laurie in the car with him.
Yeah, and then Steven shows up, because he's like, "Oh my God, my girlfriend's in this drag race," and
That kind of scares him straight.
yeah, yeah, and then of course, then as the race is going, Harrison Ford's car spins out and rolls. And of course, they both get out of the car, and not a scratch on them, and
Yeah, like the boy for 1970s or actually 1960s cars, where I doubt that they had seatbelts.
no,
That's the most. Maybe this was a science fantasy movie all along.
Yeah.
But now, as far as interesting outside of the movie aspects of it, uh, this was another movie kind of like The Sting, where it was made on a pretty small budget, but it had a huge
Mhm.
gross.
Yeah.
You see why Fox was willing to give this kid a shot on his stupid space movie.
Yes. Yeah. And and of course, you mentioned that it made a lot of money, but I don't know how much of that Lucas saw.
Probably not much of it.
Probably not. Yeah, because that was a big thing with Star Wars was that having those licensing rights, having like especially with the toys. Even though the deal he made with Kenner was not a good one for him, but
Well, more than he would have gotten classically if he'd done a standard Fox contract.
true. Yeah. Um,
So I gotta say that overall, on a second watch of this, is it weird to say that I liked the individual scenes more than I liked them strung together?
no, I could see that. Yeah.
I kept thinking to myself that you could have taken just about any of these stories and you could have probably spun a whole movie out of them.
Yeah, you could have. Yeah, it would have been like that episode of The Simpsons when they were going through all those different stories.
Yeah, like the 33 stories from Springfield, 34 stories from Springfield.
Yes, which has the classic steamed hams.
Yeah, but I more mean like say storyline: hot rod driver ends up with a 12-year-old girl in his car with him when he was expecting a girl his own age,
Yeah,
and go spin out a whole movie.
yeah,
Um, but guy who's about to go to leave town to go to college on a scholarship, but he wants to play the field, but his girlfriend doesn't want him to go, and go.
yeah,
That's more what I mean.
yeah.
So
Okay.
I think that like I honestly felt my attention drifting quite a bit, which is weird because like I'd occasionally realize that I had lost attention, go back, watch a scene, and go, "Well, that scene was totally fine. What's going on here?"
Yeah,
So I would say for me at least, the whole is less than the sum of its parts. I can't really complain too much about any of the individual scenes.
yeah. It's yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, and I do think that it had definitely for people of that generation. I think it speaks to them probably more so than us. Because I mean, this was our parents and grandparents' generations. They were,
Right.
yeah, and the thought of just getting in our cars and cruising along a street and talking to our friends across the lanes was just like nah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, this just seems weird. It's definitely a slice. Like it is a very exacting slice of a certain period of time
yeah,
of that long 50s.
right, yeah. Um, but yeah, I can see why like it okay, well, and I think that might the reason like the whole is less than the sum of its parts is because like I was saying that there was no overarching conflict. There was there was nothing like you know some catastrophe that was waiting to happen.
Right. Well, aside from apparently one of them dying in Vietnam afterwards, but
Well, yeah, and then the other one getting killed by a drunk driver. Um,
which I forget. It wasn't Dreyfus's character who got killed by the drunk driver.
no, it was John. It was the hot
That's right.
rod
Okay.
driver.
So that's right. Because he'd even been talking about somebody else who had died that same way, which is kind of funny in a
Yeah,
tragic way.
yeah, yeah. And then yeah, Dreyfus he was a writer.
In Canada, of all places.
Yeah, and Ron Howard was selling insurance.
Still back in Modesto.
Yeah,
He had the most mundane of them all, so his came last in the what they all went to do.
Yeah.
But I would say this movie is, it's definitely historically important, especially in light of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Um, I'm reasonably certain that this is why Harrison Ford tried out for Han Solo.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he was working as a carpenter on the movie.
Hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, and Lucas remembered him, and he went, "Oh, hey, I'm doing this space movie. You want to do an audition for it?" And but yeah, it is kind of weird though that like yeah that because that he thought of Harrison Ford so late, and then he did the same thing with Indiana Jones. Because Indiana Jones, they originally wanted Tom Selleck.
Oh, that's right. Well, I mean, at the time, Thomas Selleck was the big movie star, so
Yeah, yeah, but he was too busy doing Magnum PI, so he couldn't do it. But but yeah, I mean, definitely check this movie out.
mhm.
It's currently on Netflix, although I think it's still. I don't think it's leaving anytime soon.
Yeah, I didn't see any sort of notification like that I was leaving soon. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, we actually got hit by that with a movie we had intended to review a few weeks back, where it's just gone from all streaming platforms.
yeah, it was. Yeah, what was that? Uh, oh, it was The Longest Yard.
That's right. Yeah, the original non-Adam Sandler version,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We were going to do that, and then it got pulled, and then we ended up doing The Addams Family.
which probably would have ended up liking The Longest Yard better. But streaming is a cyclical business. It'll show up somewhere at some point.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah, but but yeah, I think we've said all we need to say.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So a slightly eclectic week, though. As long as we have X-Men still putting on episodes, it's going to continue to be eclectic for us. So.
Yes.